TCG ban list review and reaction. The TCG is very much happy with their current meta. If we look on over to their tier list over here on YuGiOhMeta.com, Vanquish Soul, Yummy, Dracotail, Maliss, Ryzeal, Mitsurugi, these are all the top different decks doing well. And a lot of people are very happy because pretty much with the introduction of these new decks, they all came out at the same time, and it feels like in a completely fresh, different meta. It's like playing a brand new game with a bunch of different bosses to face off against, while in Master Duel Land, if we look at the TCG, we pretty much only have two decks, Ryzeal and we have Maliss as, oh my Jesus. Everything at tier 3 right now is at the lowest part of tier 3, meaning they're barely at tier 3. They're essentially not even there. I would say that the entire tier list is literally just Ryzeal and just Maliss, and it's going to get even worse. Maliss is going to grow even more in prevalence. I think between Ryzeal and Maliss, we're going to see an 80% of the total meta, with the other 20% just being random freaking decks that are refusing to play the top two. Now, with the TCG being this happy with their current meta, why is there even a ban list? Maybe there shouldn't be one. And I think there's some problematic cards within the TCG that they are complaining about, like Paradise Smasher, which is essentially a first turn kill, but in the TCG, it is completely untargetable with the way they are making it. Now, while in Master Duel we are upset about Max C, in the TCG, they are very much upset with Fool Loss and Drone Lockbird. So maybe we'll see some of those cards possibly addressed on this ban list. Probably not, though. Let's hop into the ban list right now. Boom. April was the last time they have had a ban list, and it would be insane if players now become discontent with the new meta after praising it so immensely. Let's see. Changes. Newly unlimited. Glow Up Bulb. I think this is now fully unlimited everywhere. This card is a once per duel effect of reborning from engrave and milling the top card of your deck. That could be great in tier limit, of course, as you could also trigger the effect of a tier limit that you randomly mill when this reborns. Okay, and has it even seen that much prevalence within Master Duel? Rocket, we have the old deck, 2019, I guess, was using it in the OCG. Anyone really using this? I guess a Natura deck. Going over to Master Duel stats, yeah, there you go. Tier limit, 10% are using it. It's really not been that big of a deal, and because of that, they are just going to fully unlimit it. Sure, makes sense. Masterpiece from 1 to 3. This should have already gone to 3 immediately when it went to 1. This card is even in Master Duel while it's at 3. People are preferring to play it at just 1. A lot of them, I believe. Let's see, True Draco, 80% at 1 with the option to play it at 3. So all you were doing was limiting build diversity by restricting this to 1. So definitely makes sense to fully unlimit it, sure. Let's see, Morphing Jar. This is a nothing change. Again, back in my day, Morphing Jar was limited to 1. People would put this on their lap, present their deck to you to shuffle cut. You give their deck back to them. They then pull the Morphing Jar from their lap out. You don't see it, though, because they're really good at sleight of hand. Then they draw only 4 cards, and then they first turn kill you because Morphing Jar, you set it, then you flip it up, flip it down multiple times until the opponent fully decks out. Now, that was before hand traps really existed. We didn't have a card like Veiler as prevalent to just negate the Morphing Jar. So, yeah, all right, cool. Back to 3. Phantom Sky Blaster. This is a cool card that summons a bunch of tokens. I don't think people are really playing this. If I remember this being played, I'm thinking, I think like an Auroradon decks. Let me see. Sky Blaster, OCG stats, Synchron's are kind of using it. Beyond that, not really seeing use anywhere. So, sure. You are able to summon any number of tokens up to the number of monster control. So you would just summon 1 token. It's essentially 2 bodies in 1. Let's see. I'm just going to close some tabs up here so I don't get, all messed up. Let's see. Snake Eye Ash from 2 to 3. It is limited to 1 in Master Duel. Now, in TCG, if I'm remembering correctly, Original Sinful Spoils, which is searched for with Poplar or set with Diablo Star, is banned. Maybe it's unbanned for the TCG on this ban list, but do understand that context of this doesn't mean much if Original Sinful is still banned, and I don't want to spoil myself. We'll look into it later if I remember. Let's see. Poplar, again, 2 to 3. Can they really be unbanning Original Sinful with the Ash and Poplar now going to 3? That would definitely be crazy. Okay, so not much to say unless the Original Sinful is unbanned. Then we can go back to this. Dragonic Diagram from 1 to 3 across the board, fully unlimited. This is going to be supporting true Draco decks, which I feel Konami needs more decks like this. I know that's a controversial take. I know it's a floodgate deck, but you need, for a healthy card game, you need Timmies to be able to play the game, and you also need the decks to be accessible. A deck like True Draco is very cheap in Master Duel, very cheap in the TCG, and if you were to introduce a brand new friend to the game and they had to spend their own money, you'd probably start them off on something like True Draco, and then once they like the game a bit, you then put them on a real deck. Now, let's see what we have. Lightning Storm. This is still semi-limited in Master Duel. It was semi-limited in TCG, but you have to understand that there's pretty much no risk to playing Lightning Storm in the TCG versus Master Duel, because in Master Duel, it's a 50% chance that you're going first, and then your Lightning Storm's no good, where in the TCG, you just side deck this in for game 2 or 3, meaning at least 50 to 66% of the match, you get ideal usage of your Lightning Storm, where you know you could have this in your opening hand and make it usable right away. And this has been really good against the Yummy deck, which is super top tier at the moment. What else do we have? We have, whoa, Barrage from 1 to 3. I don't think it's been doing anything as it went to 1. A lot of the other Zodiac cards are still banned. I think Dryden is still banned in the TCG. Barrage was used for pretty much just one tournament in Master Duel, as it was unlimited also there. And then you realize two things. One, it doesn't play well against Full Awesome Max C. Two, the Zodiac is a Garnet. It has to be in the deck, which means you can't just tech in 3 Barrage and 1 Zodiac in any deck. You draw that 1 Zodiac monster, your Barrages are now dead. And then you have to then add even more Zodiac monsters, and then you're getting to the point where I don't want my deck to be a Zodiac deck, I just want to tech this in. So, okay, sure, summon a Zodiac from the deck. Newly semi-limited. Branded Fusion from 1 to 2. Newly opening up Branded Fusion. I think a lot of people recoil when they see Branded Fusion in TCG, much more so than any other format, because I think this is immensely aligned with floodgating your opponent. That has been the most prominent way to play Branded Fusion in the TCG, whether it is giving them the gimmick puppet or the other monster that says when someone on the opponent's side field they can't summon while it's face up, or the gimmick puppet they can't summon for the rest of the turn. And I think that they have been banning those cards. I don't want to spoil myself looking at everything, but if they could bring Branded Fusion closer to a more real deck that's not just floodgating, then that's great, and good for them having Branded Fusion now at 2. They used to have Branded Fusion at 3, then they brought it to 1, so this is them undoing a hit a little bit. Okay. Newly limited. We're skipping the semi-limits after Branded Fusion, going to Ryzeal. Ryzeal from 2 to 1. A card that very likely should have been limited to 1 on the release of Master Duel if Konami cared to actually balance the newer decks, which I'm not saying that Ryzeal should be limited to 1 on release and then nothing happens to a deck like Maliss. Both decks should have been much more heavily limited before the Master Duel release. Again, I've been talking about this a lot in Master Duel. A big issue with Master Duel is deck diversity. And when they keep releasing these super top tier decks to try to make money from, I think they're just shooting themselves in the foot. They are harming the game overall. People are quitting. People don't want to play. And with less people playing, you then overall make less money. And then I think you probably become even more desperate to release tier 0 freaking decks and then kill off the remaining players left in your freaking game. What is going on? And now in the Meta Weekly this Sunday, I am banning Ryzeal, I am banning Dormouse, I am banning Apollo USA, I am banning Max C. Those 4 cards will be banned on this Sunday tournament. Whether you're a player or a viewer, please show up and support that event to show me that you enjoy these small custom ban lists to still enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! While Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in a bad spot, at least for Master Duel, that is. Let's keep on. I mean, this card is nuts. It's an extender, starter, and board breaker. Like, you have to think that a card that is a starter and an extender is already incredibly powerful, where I like to bring up Prank Kids a lot because they have to be normal summon, thus none of them are actual extenders. So if you draw too many Prank Kids in your opening hand, it's a bad hand. You can only normal summon one of them. But being able to either start or extend and break a board with this by sending Aggregator to negate a card in the field, it's 3 powerful effects in 1. Oh my Jesus. Let's keep on going. Dormouse from 2 to 1. Now, compared to Ryzeal, What is Dormouse? Dormouse is not a board breaker, not an extender. It's literally just a powerful starter. So we have a card that is just a starter versus a starter, extender, and board breaker. I'm not saying Dormouse does not deserve to be limited to 1. It very much does deserve that. But just to try to compare the power level here of what's going on, and we're going to be banning this card, these 2 cards, there we go, in a row, banned for the next Master Duel event. Limited to 1. I understand there's no such thing as pre-hits in the TCG, which is probably the worst thing about it if you want a balanced game, right? To think that Konami doesn't design any card with the intent that it is supposed to be a card that eventually gets limited to 1 is insane. And also, if you further believe that they don't do that, then why are they restricted on balancing the game? Why aren't they creating cards that would be good at only 1? And that's where Master Duel should be in the unique position to benefit over any other format. We also get to see what decks do well in the TCG and OCG. So it's so insanely perplexing that why did this card get released at 3 in Master Duel? Konami, why are you so stupid greedy? If you were smart greedy, you would just have the game be more balanced overall and more people would play and you would then make more money. I'm sorry, I'm just really freaking annoyed at the state of Master Duel while we're looking at a TCG ban list. Because this is where these cards should be. They're at their rightful home, at least in everywhere else but Master Duel, that is. What else do we have? And I know new decks deserve their time to shine. That's great, but not at the expense of the rest of the game. Vanquish Soul Ryzeal, limited to 1. Now, my perspective on the meta in TCG and OCG is that Vanquish Soul is the best deck until Yummy receives their new card that only OCG has. But even despite that, within the TCG, Vanquish Soul and Yummy are pretty much even in power level. It was only really in the OCG that Vanquish Soul was performing much better than Yummy without the newer card. And I mean, what does this mean? What are we gonna hit? People were happy with this meta. It's kind of freaking new even. If this just happened and we're already hitting Vanquish Soul, are we gonna hit everything else? I guess, you know, if Konami's looking at this more specifically at Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta, they're like, okay, let's bring these numbers down, right? We don't hit Draco Tail, Crystron, Maliss, or Ryzeal. Maybe we just hit these 2 decks. If we could, we hear you that you all enjoy the meta, but we could make it better by bringing these numbers down to get this to like 15%, 15%. Maybe that is the case, but again, a very powerful Yummy card is about to come out in the TCG, which I would think is going to lead to this ban list maybe hitting Yummy quite bad, maybe more severely than Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul doesn't really receive a newer card that makes it a lot better. They do receive a new Canine card that does make the deck a little bit better, but not the power boost that Yummy receives. As you can see here, with Vanquish Soul being unhit in OCG, the deck is in a decent spot. It's a little less diverse than the TCG, the third deck being about 8% instead of Draco Tail being at 12.5%. Let's see what else we have. Limited to 1. This is our starter. Oh my Jesus. What do we have? Lacrima 0-1. Many people had the theory that the time rules of TCG is why this card was banned, because it deals damage. It inflicts 1,200 damage to your opponent. Now, of course, beyond that effect that it shouldn't even have, it's already an immensely powerful effect. They just wanted an excuse for why can this recycle another Light Fiend monster in your graveyard back in the deck, an extra deck? And I don't think the TCG really cares about time rulings, but it's a huge headache for TCG. Now, with that time ruling being gone, you no longer win by being higher life points than your opponent. And on this Sunday, and I think going forward on all of my Twitch streams, I think I'm going to be spending the first 1 to 2 hours of the stream just reacting to news and crazy highlight replays, and then we'll segue into the top 16 of the event. So I do want to diversify my content a bit more, and I think I'm going to take that opportunity to react to the new TCG time rules and end of match procedure on this Sunday if you want to hear my take on it. Because I think a lot of people are saying that those changes alone have ruined the TCG, and I do think a lot of them are definitely overreacting, but it is much more nuanced. All right, Lacrima is back. Nice. Linkuriboh. What made Linkuriboh so powerful, I think one of the main reasons being is that it protects Apollo USA. Apollo USA is balanced when it actually has the downside of dying during battle. And when you have Linkuriboh or the Maliss field spell protecting the Apollo from even being attacked into, you now have no negative downside besides all the monsters you put into that Apollo that give you a negate per monster used mate. And with Apollo already being banned in the TCG, I think that this was just a late unban. This probably should have been unbanned with Apollo, because how could you even justify this card being worthy of a ban without the context of Apollo? Let's keep on going. Summon Sorceress. We had this happen in Macedool, and I don't think we really cared. There was some hype around this being more usable in Unchained or Yubel, because what you could do is you'll summon a Fiend monster on your opponent's side of the field from your hand, and then you special summon one from your deck with the same type, which would be a Fiend. And you'll have its effects negated, but it will still have a graveyard effect that's great. And, it does help you extend from going into a Link 3 into a Link 4 as you just get to special summon a card in the field. Pretty cool. TCG maybe is going to do some crazy stuff with it. Now, cards that special summon are much more balanced in OCG and Macedool because of Maxi existing, which I believe that's why TCG is going to be a lot more hesitant to allow cards that just straight up special summon like this that lead into potential special summon slop combos. As you can see, Yubel, Unchained, Six Samurai apparently is using it. It's not too relevant or prevalent, but again, these are in formats where Maxi exists. So within the TCG, a card like this may just blow up. Now, they do have Full Loss, though, and this is special summoning from the deck. They won't get the draw from the hand, but the deck, they will get that draw. Let's see. Herald of the Arc Lights. Woo, what the heck? A lot of you may only know about this card being sent to the graveyard from the extra deck to search for a ritual. Well, I've been playing a lot of Yummy lately, and you summon up to 2 Herald of Arc Lights with your Yummy deck. You could summon one on your turn, then summon the second one during the opponent's turn. This does restrict the counterplay from the opponent. If you want to ensure that the way to interact with your opponent is more diverse, where you're not just relying on hand traps and you actually want board breakers to also be good, then restricting this can be a good idea because this negates a board breaker. Generally, the best use of any Omni Negate is saving it for the last possible moment or when they activate a board break like Raigeki. And yes, Raigeki is being used in the TCG to beat Yummy. And also Lightning Storm, as I said earlier. So that's mainly what this card was negating. Negate Raigeki, negate Lightning Storm. And now you're going to be reduced in that capability of being able to, you'll still negate the first one. You just won't negate the second Raigeki that comes afterward, giving them, again, much more counterplay and variety on how to deal with Yummy. Sure. And I got to say myself, I've been getting blown out like crazy by Raigekis and Lightning Storms playing Yummy myself. I mean, they usually are Full Lossing, and then I can't really set up the ideal field to even summon 2 Herald of Arc Lights, and then they follow up with the freaking Raigeki. So with that said, because a card like Full Loss already exists, was this even needed? They already had a card that forced the varied strategy of dealing with Yummy by just restricting their ability to even summon the second copy. And if you're unfamiliar with how Yummy works, it is an immensely hand-trap resilient deck. Valor and Impermanence basically do nothing against the deck. If you activate against them, they can just dodge it. Just completely, their Synchro jumps off the field, their Link jumps off the field, their monster could be synchroed with if you try to negate it with an Imperm or Valor, and that's, of course, if they're playing correctly. All right, let's keep on going. Zodiac Trident. Okay, finally, it is unbanned. Now, just to summon this, I guess a lot of people could be thinking, hey, this is only balanced where Maxi exists, which is probably no one is saying that. But to summon this, you're going to have 2 bodies on the field, which probably constitutes you special summoning at least once. And then you're going to rank 4 Xyz into the other Zodiac. So now they would draw twice under Maxi. And then you draw a 3rd card for Maxi by summoning the Trident to now have the quick effect of detach material, target a face-up card in the field, and get poppin'. This is not exactly like Detonator. This is not giving everyone a Detonator. Detonator obviously is way better than this, but the tech ability of Trident and Zodiac Barrage, I think, is now a pretty cool option that the TCG has, and they don't have to worry about max freaking C when they try to summon from the deck. I think the Zodiac package, if you want to put in any deck, from my experience and what I've been seeing is you're going to want at least 2 Zodiac monsters plus the 3 Barrage to make it work. Otherwise, you draw the Zodiac and then the Barrages don't work. And I did speak about this in Macedool with balancing the game better, that if you're forced to sell power because it's inevitable, we're a niche game, we can't be like Fortnite and just sell cosmetics and do well from there, the best way to sell power in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you're not releasing multiple top tier decks at the same time to make the game feel fresh right away, is to just give people a lot of options to tech engines into multiple different decks. That would be Kashtira, that'd be Fiendsmith, and now Zodiac being another option. There's got to be some TCG players thinking about their older decks going, oh, cool. Now I could add 5 Zodiac cards to my main deck, and I'm making some Zodiac plays. I really want to pick that up again. This also gives the versatility of destroying your own card. Maybe you would play this in a deck where you want your own card to be destroyed, and you could have some cool combos there. What else do we have? Inclusion. Oh my goodness. I thought they would just hit the top 2 decks. So, wow, Crystron is 8% of the meta. Vanquish Soul, Yummy are the top 2. Is Draco Tail going to get hit? I mean, we're going to be looking back at this later. Crystron Inclusion 2-1. Oh my Jesus. Are people going to be upset about this or what? Limited 2-1. This card is nuts. You know, it starts, it extends, it even further extends from Reborn from the graveyard. Even being able to use the effect to Reborn from the grave in the same turn that you activate this to search, that is crazy. And the way this card is worded is generally multi-effect cards will say that you could only use the effect once, and it will tie it to both effects, where this is stated that if you negate the activation of this card, you are still able to activate a second copy of the inclusion. That is what's insane. Because he would say you can only use both effects once per turn, so if I activate this and they use a Baron to floor, and I have another inclusion in hand, I'm screwed. But again, not to be redundant, you could just play a second copy. So good job on that. On the, even more making a card like this more powerful. You do have to think about not negating this because of that, and that is negating the activation, not the effect of it. What else do we have? Obedience Schooled, that's a yummy hit. What were the yummy hits so far? We have Herald of Arc Light, limited 1, where they would summon 2. We now have Obedience Schooled. I could say I agree with this, and the reason why I agree with this as a yummy player myself is that this card is toxic. It is, just bangs my knee, all right? Now, what's toxic about this card is you have to Ash this. And you're thinking, okay, you have to Ash Branded Fusion. This is balanced, right? Well, Branded Fusion, you can't activate a second copy in the same turn after it gets ashed. This card you can. So only because you have to Ash this, it is absolutely the correct play to try to negate this, and then they could follow up with a second or third copy in their hand. It's just bad. It's not good for the game. I would ideally want Yummy to be good beyond that, and it should be with the new Yummy card release that the OCG has. I'm sure they'll survive this, and this, of course, will still be played, and it does have its downsides. You're locked into Beast. You also have to control no monster to even use this, and then it also conflicts if you're using the Sky Striker engine. So, yeah, good. Summon 3 bodies in the deck. Okay, yeah, definitely a limit to 1. And I would expect among all the cards, I would not expect Herald of Arclight to get hit in Master Duel, but I would say that this card should be limited to 1 before Yummy comes out in Master Duel. That would be the big tell, right? We get the ban list on the 20th, and then before they announce the new pack, that for sure, this will be the indicator that Yummy's coming. Let's see. Stake Your Soul. Oh my Jesus. Vanquish Soul and Yummy with the multi-hits. Raisin and Stake Your Soul. Now limited to 1. Again, I guess it's to drop that 23%, but the real question is, are they being too harsh? Is this going to go from 23% of the total tournament meta of top and decks down to below 10%? Is it going to be worse than Ryzeal Mitsurugi now? Worse than Maliss? Because ideally, you want it to align up but not be worse. A lot of people have very recently went in onto this deck. This is a $1,000 deck. Do you even understand that mindset? If you're a Master Duel player, that people are spending thousands of dollars for their Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and then when you hit a few of them, I mean, the price of the cards are probably tanking right now. There's probably people on eBay trying to sell their deck off, just panic selling, because they're not really sure if the deck's still going to be good. Oh my. Yeah, I think, it really is a different feeling. When you look at a ban list, and your $1,000 deck now becomes $100. I'm not trying to exaggerate that it's to that extent, but that's what it feels like. You're losing hundreds of dollars looking at these ban lists. All right, stake your wallet. Solemn Judgment from 3 to 1. What the heck is this? Is this the Master Duel meme? No, this card is actually a very good card in the TCG, while not so good in Master Duel because of the side deck. If we look at the tier list, we look at the side deck tier list, Solemn Judgment's here. 35% of players are playing about 3 copies in their side deck. Pretty much in every side deck I play on TCG simulators, I'm playing 3 Solemn Judgment. Why wouldn't you? Especially when I'm playing Yummy. What's the big counter to Yummy? A board breaker. Well, if I know I'm going first, I get to set Solemn Judgment and multiple copies do not overlap. You can use all 3 of them. It's not a hard once per turn. Negate Raigeki, negate Lightning Storm. Just negate anything the opponent does. It is too immensely versatile to not be using, but still not used as much as Drone Lockbird, as you can see here. Artifact Lancia has dropped in usage as the prevalence of Maliss has been dropping. Let's see. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Definitely makes sense. The Master Duel 2 does not make sense. Newly Forbidden. What? Whoa, wait, whoa. Moon of the Closed Heaven. Lacrima got unbanned for Moon to get banned. This allowed any non-Light Fiend deck to segue into your Fiendsmith plays. Now, you have a deck like Ryzeal that did not need Moon of the Closed Heaven. They could go into the rank 4 Xyz Exciton Knight, which is their Light Fiend, to then make their Light Fiend plays. So this just makes the Fiendsmith engine more exclusive to specific Light Fiend decks like Musketeer. They're not going to be affected here. Or, not only Exciton Knight with 2 level 4 monsters, but there's also, we know this from the event in Master Duel that restricted our Moon, that a lot of people started playing a rank 3 Xyz, a Light Fiend. So if you can get 2 bodies on the field, just the Speedroid engine, right? Some of the Terror Top could go into the rank 3 Xyz, which is a Light Fiend, and that will essentially be your new Moon of the Closed Heaven. But you're no longer going to be able to extend with a hand trap, where let's say you special summon a monster, it gets negated. Instead of ending your turn, you can normal summon your Ash Blossom, turn it into a Moon of the Closed Heaven, and fully pop off from there. That does change a lot for this. It does severely cripple the Fiendsmith engine overall. And, getting Lacrima for the trade of banning Moon, I don't know if that's worth it. You tell me if you're a Fiendsmith player, if you accept this trade, or if you'll gladly reban Lacrima to get Moon back. This is crazy. Okay, let's keep on going. Whoa, what? Splash Mage? What the heck? Splash Mage restricted. Just Maliss is the most relevant deck that's using Splash Mage. And on the tier list, Maliss is a top 5 deck, and we don't know what would happen after the Vanquish Soul and Yummy card hits go through, that maybe Maliss will climb to the top. I mean, if you just do simple addition and subtraction, which is obviously not how metas work, some decks specifically have better matchups against other, and that could completely throw off the meta if you then nerf that deck that maybe, let's say Blue Eyes only had a bad matchup against Vanquish Soul, and then that deck's worse, then Blue Eyes could maybe just skyrocket to the top. I am not saying that's the case, but that's an example of how the meta can happen. And if you trust Konami with internal testing, which you shouldn't, they probably saw that, wow, Maliss becomes a lot better with these Yummy and Vanquish Soul hits. Now, Maliss, this is their 3rd hit on their extra deck. They are restricted on Link Decoder's banned. Apollo USA's banned. I know Apollo is not exclusive to Maliss, but it is the most prevalent deck among the top decks that would be abusing Apollo USA. And now Splash Mage is banned. Splash Mage +1's a monster on the field. That is insane. Oh my, okay. Now in Master Duel, you generally wait to summon the Splash Mage because it locks you out of summoning the Apollo. But with Apollo banned in TCG, they just go right for this. The Lizard Dose, you can't really compare this to Lizard Dose because Lizard Dose uses up the banishment effect of one of your Malisses, where you could reborn a already banished triggered Maliss that's in the graveyard with Splash Mage and still get that +1 body to go into Link 3. Yeah, no more 2 body into a Maliss Link 3. Oh boy, that is something. Let's keep on going. King of the Feral Imps. They're hitting all over the place. What the heck? Vanquish hit, Yummy hit, Draco Tail unhit from what I know. Crystron hit with Inclusion, Maliss hit with Splash Mage. This Feral Imp hit is Ryzeal Mitsurugi and Pure Mitsurugi. 2 level 4 monsters, and the Feral Imp searches for any reptile. The fact that this is not a level 4 or lower reptile, it could just search for a big ritual. It's not even a hard once per turn on the effect. I know you're not really spamming the effect unless you're doing some twins play nonsense or plug and reborn it back then activate. But this is one of the main opening plays of a Mitsurugi deck, to go into this first to make their opener a lot more versatile in how they want to open up. Insane. That is, and the fact that how easily this was summoned without committing to your normal summon, search for a really good reptile to just normal summon. This card is so old, 12-year-old card. And, you know, with reptiles not being that good 12 years ago, they of course give you this powerful card with no restriction of searching any type of reptile you want. And it's just going to bite them back in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! As it did. So Ryzeal Mitsurugi with a pretty big hit here. Oh my. What else do we have? Paradise Smasher. They're late to the party. I think it's unacceptable that they banned this card this late. They have the new Canine card, Lupus, that makes this untargetable. And I know that Vanquish Soul did not need this card to win games, but you have to agree with me that it's also BS that they have it. It's not needed, but they shouldn't have it. That is my take on this. It's a toxic way to win. The essential first turn kill. It's a 93% chance your opponent can't activate any monster effects for their next turn. They can't even declare an attack. We've had in a tournament a Mad Lad activates triple tactics talent to take control of a monster while under the effect of Paradise Smasher. And then they quickly realized, oh wait, I can't even declare an attack, as they then surrender. Disgusting. Very little counterplay, not cool, and especially you can't Veil or Imperm if it freaking becomes untargetable. It's a lot of bans. Let's keep on going. What full changes? Forbidden, limited, semi-limited, unlimited. Okay, now we can look at the Snake Eye cards, right? Snake Eye, and I think the only unhit deck here was Draco Tail among the top, right? Vanquish, Yummy, Crystron, Maliss, Ryzeal Mitsurugi, and Mitsurugi all hit. Lunalight, Memento, Blue Eyes, and, well, Mitsurugi Orgus obviously is hit because of it associating with Mitsurugi. We're going to be looking at Draco Tail and also what's going on with Snake Eye. Let's look at that real quick. Let me open up the Snake Eye hit, Snake Eye unhit that is. We have Snake Eye, as we can see, banned, still banned. So I think these unhits are not really going to be doing much. This was the really old Snake Eye. They then transitioned into Snake Eye Fiendsmith, which maybe would have been a better thing to look at here. There you go, Snake Eye Fiendsmith, where some people were even 40% not using it. We're still coping on trying to make this a playable deck. As late as May, as you can see, something like this. So maybe this player will be happy to see that their Ash and Poplar are now 3, but they lost Moon. Moon is gone. As they gained an Ash and Poplar, they gained Fiendsmith Lacrima, but that's not a proper replacement. They don't have a good way to go into a Light Fiend, as far as I know. They can't rank 3 Xyz, they can't rank 4 Xyz reliably. So what do? I think that's the end of Snake Eye Fiendsmith, despite receiving some unhits. And now let's look at Draco Tail. I could just look at the top. Vanquish Soul, limited to 1. Ryzeal, limited to 1 of the Stake Your Soul. And then Paradise Smasher banned, as the card that makes it untargetable is this one, stating that your opponent cannot target this card with card effects as an Xyz material under that Xyz. And then what else we have here? Let's go back to Yummy. Yummy with their limit to 1 on the Obedience School. I agree with that. Not sure if it was that great of an idea from Konami to restrict the Herald of Arc Light. I think some people will probably be mixed on that. I'm also going to be reading some reactions. If we click on over to OCG, this is the new card they will be receiving. So the consolation of they lose 2 starters in their main deck, and then they gain 3 more with the Marshmallow. No monsters, you could special summon this, so you don't even have to commit to your normal summon to get this thing started. And then it can recycle your banished field spell if they were to. A lot of people are Little Knight banishing the field spell, and then a lot of Yummy players are folding right after that. They have no way to get access to their banished field spell until the new card comes out. I'm not sure exactly when that comes out in the TCG. What else did we see? The Crystron, I'm skipping Draco Tail for now. This is the inclusion of 3 of limited to 1. That is big. That is a very big hit on consistency. A card that also extends and also could play through activation negates, activating another copy, which is no longer going to be a thing because there's only 1 freaking copy, which means that now, especially for the mirror match, you have a Dragster or an Infinity. You don't even have to think if it's okay to negate the inclusion. You know there won't be another one. What else we have? But they could then have it in the graveyard to reborn with the other effect. What else on the ban list? We then Maliss. We were talked about Link Decoder and Apollo already being banned. And then Splash Mage is now freaking gone. And also, yeah, I kind of over this card just got limited to 1. Yeah, I don't know why I reacted harder to Splash Mage getting restricted than Dormouse. I think I was too focused on the fact that in my Master Duel ban list tournament, I'm also going to be banning Dormouse, but this is also crazy. Maliss, not already, it is a top 5 deck, but not the best deck. Getting hit on Dormouse and Splash Mage. And then I completely forgot about Ryzeal. Again, thinking about our Master Duel hits, where Ryzeal, Ryzeal is also limited to 1. So they lost the King of the Feral Imps 100% usage. They also lost an Ryzeal. They have a lot of ways to search it, and if they want to, they could play the 7th Ascension to more consistently open up with the Ryzeal, which is going to further make them weaker to a Drone Lockbird. This deck is already weak to Drone Lockbird to the point where I think people are playing Mistaken Arrest is a kind of a popular side deck card, or at least when this deck was more prevalent. And you know you're going first, you then side this in. It can, on the first effect, they're activating the search. Instead of waiting for them to search with Droll, then hit them with this and you win. But again, this has fallen off from being the top deck as now that card's been taken out. And then what else are we looking at here? So those are the total hits. Now, what about Draco Tail? Does this mean that just simple addition and subtraction among the top, 10 decks, Draco Tail's the only deck to not get hit? What the heck? Anything in the extra deck that got hit? Anything in the main deck? Nothing. I would guess that maybe the Draco Tail cards are going to go up in value. I do want to look at the price of decks, though. Let's see this. If we click on YCS TCG money, wait, this is a $1,000 deck. Did it already drop in price? $200 for Crystron deck. There's some cheap, yummy. I know, $300 is cheap. That's a deal. It's a steal. $600 on the Vanquished Soul cards. What has gone down in value? What were the prices? $13. I guess I'll open up this. Holly is a $13 card. Azuna, I mean, you wouldn't think that this goes down in value, even though it kind of is tied to Vanquished Soul. The Yummy cards probably, I don't think they would go down in value, right? That shouldn't be going down in value. We should see the Draco Tail cards. I want to see if this goes up in value. Maybe the Femina went up from $12. This is only 20 cents. Let's check out those cards real quick. TCG player, sorry for the flashbangs, TCG player, okay. Woo! What the heck? $35 down to, what is it, where is it drop? Okay, it's $21, $13 market price. It was $35. What a drop. Wow. And then what about the Holly Sue? This card's untouched, but it's tied to a deck that got hit. Ooh, what the hell? It was a $44 card and now down to $13. Is this really in response to the ban list, though? I guess before the ban, maybe people were suspecting it was going to get hit and it started dropping in price. And then we have Azuna. Did this go up? Wow, look at that slippy slope. $60 card down to $33. We have the Femina. This should be going up, right? The deck got unhit and people are hesitant right before a ban list announcement. Are you ready? I guess it's not as low of a drop as the other ones. Okay, but it did still see a little bit of a drop. Maybe it's going to be going up. This may be an indicator for, I'm not giving market or financial advice here, for some of you to start buying this. Interesting. And what about the Maliss cards? Maliss getting hit with Splash Mage and Dormouse. I think these cards were already reduced in value. Maybe March Hare is a good indicator of the price of Maliss. Let's see that real quick. And then we'll check out the comments. Let's see. This, it's already gone down from $22. What's the full? It used to be a $67 card. Holy moly, a 3 of, mostly 2 to 3 you could say, all the way down to $13. This is just the reality of playing physical Yu-Gi-Oh! Of your deck going immensely down in value, and then you pretty much eat the full cost of your deck and you're not able to even resell it. Because if your $67 card's now $13, that doesn't mean you can now sell it at $13. When I played TCG, Gianna, do you remember? We would have to try to resell our cards to like Troll and Toad at like 1/3 the freaking price. They would, It says 13 bucks, but then if you try to sell it to a vendor, they'll only take it for like $5 at this price pretty much. So, you know, definitely really bad for those people that lost that much money on it. And let's see the reactions. We'll go to Master Meta for the reactions. There's a lot more people over there. 91 comments. Oh my Jesus. I think my browser's breaking. Let me close a bunch of tabs here. There we go. Let me close this. Moonban is in this economy just means we are done milking Vanquish Fiendsmith, that is, now by K9. K9 is similar to the Fiendsmith engine in that it's techable in multiple different decks and it's usable in a ton. Azuna being, I think, the cheerleader of it, the main icon that you could say. Vanquish Soul, Crystron, Dracotail, 3 of the top main decks are using it. Memento, some of them are using it. What else we have here? Oh, wrong ban list. Here we go. By K9, as they ban Lacrima, this is a balancing act. I'm not sure if this was a fair trade, though. Again, if you're a Fiendsmith player, would you rather have the Lacrima stay banned and keep Moon? I think a lot of people would prefer to keep Moon. Now, they're saying Lacrima because the time rules, which I did address a little bit. Wish they would have banned Fiendsmith Requiem instead. Oh, well. Oh, my Jesus. Let's see. MD ban lists are so bad. Why can't we get lists like the TCG? The TCG lists are full of unnecessary hits to protect the actual problems. So are people not happy with this ban list? What's going on? Or is this just maybe Master players not happy with it? Let's look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta's reaction. This should be more likely TCG players. Ryzeal, the famous one-card star that makes Vanquish Soul full combo, and SYS, the insane one-card star, Stake Your Soul, that can be added with Mad Love. So broken, GG Konami. Okay. I'm not sure if I guess he's happy, right? Yeah. Starter and extender, and then the starter. Ouch, Vanquish Soul hit hurts a lot. I think it stings more because there's an expectation when you buy a deck that it should be good for about 6 months in the TCG. Remember, this is a huge investment of your money and your time. You pretty much only get to play your deck once a week, generally, or in Master you get to play it all day, every day. And your $1,000 investment for your once-a-week tournament, the deck already got hit. When did the Vanquish Soul cards even come out? This is a really quick turnaround on getting a hit, I believe, as the new Vanquish Soul cards was July 3rd. So it's like 2 freaking months and your deck is already hit. That doesn't feel good. That's really bad, right? Is it pretty much an unspoken rule that your deck should be unhit for at least 2 months in the TCG? Now, in Master Duel, you could maybe more likely expect your deck to get hit after 2 months, but not in the TCG. This is definitely, I think, case for a lot of people to be upset after going in on this deck, because among all the different top decks, I think this was the most expensive one, and a lot of people can't afford to also buy Yummy at the same time. Again, they're playing in 1 tournament a week. You could only bring 1 deck at a time. You can't just switch your deck whenever you want like Master Duel, and this is what they chose, and now they feel like they made the wrong choice as this went down. Crystron is the 4th, 5th best deck at the moment, and okay, I like they exchange the generic Axis of Moon for Lacrima. I guess someone like that. Electromite is a card that's possibly still banned because of Maxi being banned, right? They're tied together is what I would say, and I think that makes a lot of people mad. Holy, I don't know what he's saying here. Crystron inclusion, no. It is definitely interesting that Dracotail was the only top deck not hit. Everyone else among, if you consider Mitsurugi up being to be considered top, did get hit. If we look at Lunalight, another deck that's close to being top, also completely unhit. So maybe Lunalight stocks and Dracotail stocks are up. Thank you very much for listening to this video. I'll see you in the next one, as again, on Master Duel Meta Weekly this Sunday, Dormouse banned, Ryzeal banned, Maxi banned, and Apollo USA banned. We're out. Thank you. Let's do it.